The sun hung low over the dusty plains of Arizona, casting golden light over the rugged land, as silence blanketed the remote edges of the frontier. Dust whispered over the dry grass, as if carrying the secrets of those who'd passed through. Long before, Jedediah Cross, a reclusive cowboy known by the locals as Just Jed, lived alone on the edge of a wide-open prairie, where the nearest town was a full day's ride away and neighbors were a rarity. Jed wasn't one for many words or much company. He kept to himself, working the land, tending his cattle, and living with the echoes of the past. His only companions were his horsebuck and the memories he didn't talk about, memories of war, of love lost to illness, and of a world that never quite fit right after the gunsmoke cleared. He'd once served in the Union Army during the war, but that was 2 decades past. And now he lived each day trying to leave all that behind. That morning had begun like any other. The roosters crowed. The barn creaked with the stretch of wood meeting heat. Jed had saddled up Buck to ride the northern ridge and check on his cattle. Fate has a way of turning an ordinary morning into something unforgettable. On the far side of the ridge, just beyond where the mesquite grew wild in the canyons, opened wide, Jed spotted movement. It was subtle, something small and low to the ground, limping more than walking. As he rode closer, he saw what it was. A child. A native boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, his ribs pressing through skin like branches under a tarp, his lips dry and cracked, clothed a little more than torn cloth hanging on his bones. The boy collapsed before Jed could even call out. Jed leapt from his saddle, lifted the boy gently, and cradled him as if he were holding something sacred. No food, no water. No tracks around him, no adults in sight. Just a starving, broken child on the edge of death. Jed had seen pain before on battlefields and in the eyes of dying men, but this was different. This was innocent. He wrapped the boy in his duster, hoisted him onto the horse, and rode back to the ranch as fast as Buck could carry them. Back at the cabin, Jed stoked the fire, boiled water, crushed dry corn into mush, and gently spoon-fed the boy, who was too weak to speak, but whose dark, hollow eyes remained locked onto Jed's with a mixture of fear and desperate gratitude. For the next 2 days, Jed nursed him. He offered water laced with honey, covered him with blankets, rubbed his chest with bear grease, and hummed old tunes to keep the boy from slipping into the cold arms of death. He still didn't speak, but on the 3rd day, the boy raised a trembling hand, touched Jed's face, and whispered one word, Tama. Jed didn't understand it then. It wasn't English, and it wasn't anything he'd ever heard, but it didn't matter. The boy lived, and that was enough. Jed didn't ask where he came from, or who he belonged to. He figured in time those things would come. But what Jed didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that this simple act of kindness would shake the earth beneath his feet. Because, while Jed slept on the 4th night, stars glowing softly through the open window, eyes watched from the edge of the prairie. Silent eyes. Patient eyes. Warriors had come, dozens of them. They crouched behind the long grass and shadowed trees. Not to attack, not to threaten, but to see if the stories were true. The boy, known among his people as Little Bear, was the grandson of Chief Matoake, one of the last great leaders of the Apache who had remained hidden in the northern hills, evading military patrols and settlers alike. He had wandered away during a hunt, chased by wolves and storms, separated for days. The tribe had feared him dead. But when a scout returned and told of a white man who had taken the child in and saved him, they didn't believe it at first. White men had brought nothing but grief to their land's railroads, muskets, disease, betrayal. But this cowboy had done something no soldier, no trader, no settler had done in years. He had shown mercy. And that night the decision was made. The warriors would come not to fight, but to see, to understand. Morning came like thunder. Jed awoke to the sound of hooves pounding the earth, not a dozen, but hundreds. He stepped onto his porch, rifle in hand, expecting trouble. But what he saw left his heart thudding in his chest. A line of warriors on horseback stretched across the horizon, still strong. At the center sat a tall man on a jet-black stallion, his headdress flowing like river feathers, his eyes piercing and calm. The boy, now standing beside Jed on the porch, pointed and smiled weakly. "Tama," he whispered again. The chief raised his hand. Jed lowered his rifle. Silence held for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, the warriors dismounted. They lined up shoulder to shoulder in front of Yet's barn, a wall of tradition and history standing before one weathered cowboy. The chief rode forward alone and stopped 10 feet from the porch. He looked Jed in the eyes and spoke in quiet, broken English. "You fed my blood. You gave him life. Now we give respect." The words hit like thunder and softened like rain. Jed, unsure what to say, simply nodded. He needed help. That's all. The chief turned and gestured behind him. One by one, warriors approached, laying down tokens, feathers, carved stones, animal bones. Handmade totems, gifts of gratitude, of peace, of ancient honor. Jed stood silently, overwhelmed. He never expected thanks, never expected to be seen. The barn, once empty and forgotten, now stood as a monument to a single act of kindness. That evening, they lit a fire in the field. The warriors danced. The drums beat like hearts. The child sat by Yet's side, stronger now, eating deer meat and smiling. However, for the first time in years, Jed laughed a full belly-deep laugh that broke. Something open inside him. The chief placed a hand on Yet's shoulder and said, "Tomorrow we leave. But our spirits stay here. If ever you need us, the fire will answer." Jed nodded again, feeling the truth of it deep in his bones. As the fire crackled and stars blanketed the night, Jed realized something he hadn't felt in a long time: belonging. And maybe, just maybe, this old land still had room for new stories. Stories not of war, but of healing, of courage, of doing right. And for those watching this tale, remember sometimes the greatest legacies begin with a single act of compassion. If this story moved your heart, if you believe kindness still has power in this world, then subscribe to the channel, because more stories like this are waiting to be told, stories that remind us what it means to be human. Join us, and let's try. Keep these fires burning. Asterisk. Asterisk, the flames had long died down, but their warmth lingered deep in Jed's chest. After the warriors rode off at dawn, a silence fell on the ranch, peaceful, almost sacred. The field was marked with hundreds of hoofprints, gifts left in reverence, and the soft echo of ancient songs carried away by the morning wind. Little Bear, the young boy Jed had rescued, now walked stronger, a spark in his eyes, though he rarely spoke. Jed, never one to push for words, was content with the quiet bond they'd formed. Life seemed to settle back into its rhythm, but something had changed. The land itself felt different, less empty, more alive. That night, as stars blinked into the sky, Jed sat on his porch, carving a piece of mesquite wood into the shape of a horse. Little Bear sat beside him, watching in silence. After a long pause, the boy whispered, "My father is gone." "Soldiers." Jed froze, knife still in hand. He glanced sideways, seeing the pain settle in the boy's eyes like storm clouds. Jed placed the carving in the boy's hands. "Then I reckon you got a place here for as long as you need." And just like that, they became something more than a cowboy and a rescued child. They became family. But peace never lasts long in the West, not when greed and fear still roam the plains. Word spread fast, too fast. Within weeks, stories whispered. Through nearby towns, a lone cowboy had nursed a native child, and now the Apache were guarding his land. Some folks admired it. Others didn't. Sheriff Dugan of Prescott, a man more politician than peacekeeper, saw it as a threat to the fragile order of the territory. He'd fought too long to push tribes back, to make room for railroads, silver mines, and settlers who came looking for opportunity or blood. So when rumors reached him that a cowboy was harboring a wild boy, and that warriors had assembled on white man's soil without retaliation, he made his move. Jed noticed it first when he rode into town for supplies. Folks didn't tip there. Hats like they used to. Conversations stopped when he passed. The clerk at the general store hesitated before handing over a sack of flour. "You staring up things best left buried, Jed," he muttered. "Ain't wise." Jed ignored it. He'd seen worse than judgmental stares. But when he returned home, he found the gate busted open, and his barn door swung wide. Little Bear was safe hiding under the porch, but the message was clear. Someone had come snooping, and they weren't just curious. Days later, a deputy rode up with a letter bearing the sheriff's seal. Jed unfolded the paper and read the words slowly. Surrender the child within 3 days, or face the full force of territorial law. No trial, no hearing, just a demand. Jed crumpled the paper and fed it to the fire. That night he cleaned his rifle, sharpened his old Bowie knife, and walked out into the field under the starlight. He knelt near the spot where the Apache had danced, placed his hand on the earth, and whispered, "I need you now." Nothing stirred. The wind blew. The barn creaked. Then, from the horizon, came a drum beat, faint, steady, then another. Another. By dawn, they arrived not 200 this time, but 3. On horseback, on foot. Men and women, old and young. They didn't come with war on their breath. Chief Mato Ake rode forward again, his expression stern. "Why call us?" Jed explained everything: the sheriff's letter, the threats, the town's growing unrest. The chief nodded.
How?
"When you saved Little Bear, you earned more than thanks. You earned protection. Now, we will stand with you." Jed looked around at the sea of warriors and felt something he hadn't felt since the war: readiness. Not for violence, for justice. But Little Bear, who had stood silently beside him, tugged Yet's shirt. "No fight," he said. "Show them heart, not fists." The wisdom in those simple words cut deep. Jed had been preparing for another battle. But what if there was a better way? That night, they devised a plan. At dawn, Jed rode into Prescott. With Chief Mato and 2 elders, no weapons, no warriors, just courage. The sheriff met them in the square, flanked by deputies, rifles gleaming. "You've made your choice then," he growled. Jed stepped forward. "I have." "And you're making a mistake, Duggan? You think protecting a boy means war? It means something else, peace. Maybe the kind we've all forgotten." Townsfolk gathered, whispers buzzed, but Jed didn't stop. "You want to keep pushing people out until there's no one left to push? But look around. This land ain't just yours, ain't just mine. It belongs to all who care for it. That boy lost his father to men like you, but he still believes in mercy. He taught me that." The sheriff laughed. "You think pretty words'll change the law?" Chief Mato stepped forward. "We bring no war. We bring witness. If you strike this man or his home, we will not answer with arrows. We will answer with truth. Your own people will see who you are." And then from the trees, from the shadows, they came women, traders, hunters, farmers, many of them white settlers who'd seen the kindness in Jed, the change in the land. They began to speak. One by one, testimonies, stories. The sheriff looked around and saw not enemies but citizens turning against fear. He barked orders, tried to regain control, but the tide had turned. That evening, a council was held, the first of its kind in years. No rifles, no force, just voices. By nightfall, a decision was made. Little Bear would stay. Yet's land would be protected, and the sheriff was removed. The sun rose over a new land the next morning. Not a perfect land, but one with hope. Little Bear ran through the fields, chasing a wooden horse Jed had carved. The barn stood tall, now flanked by new shelters, where visitors from every tribe and family could rest. Jed watched from the porch, his hand resting on the carving knife. Chief Mato sat beside him. "You changed this place," the chief said. Jed smiled faintly. "No, that boy did." And maybe that was the truth. Starving Child had brought together warriors and cowboys, settlers and chiefs. And all it took was one act of kindness. Was the wind blew across the plains and the sun cast its golden warmth across the land. It became clear this was just the beginning. And if you, watching this now, believe that unity can be built not with bullets but with compassion, if you believe stories like this can still light hearts in a dark world, then subscribe to our channel, because we're not just telling Stories were building a legacy, one tale at a time. Ride with us and let the fire never fade. Asterisk.